If I told you some of the best characters to ever grace anime existed in what is among the most underrated anime of all time, you'd ask, who? So here we are. We will look at the 2001 anime adaptation of Hiroyuki Takei's Shaman King. If you want to join the Shaman tribe, help us get to 1,000 subscribers. Check out our previous video, Respect Shaman King. And thank you for the support. Shaman King is returning with an anime adaptation of the 35 volumes in April 2021. However, there was an anime adaptation in 2001 which had its own anime ending that spanned for 64 episodes with 4 story arcs. So this is part 1 of the Shaman King review, Coming to Tokyo arc, which is from episode 1 to episode 11. Shamanism is a religious practice involving someone who is believed to be able to interact with spirits through an altered state of consciousness, similar to a trance. Fun fact, Shaman King was originally supposed to be called Shaman the Trance Fighters. The idea was to direct or harness their spiritual energy into our physical world for healing or other purposes. That's a small summary of what shamanism is, and it basically describes how the shamans in the anime use the spirits for different purposes. But we will get into that later as we are going through the story in the anime. We are introduced to our main group of heroes. Well, should I say villain turned hero. We begin at episode 1 with the introduction of our main protagonist, Yo Asakura. Yo is not like most shonen protagonists where they will constantly train to be the best versions of themselves to reach their goal, which they will shout from every rooftop they can. No. Yo is more chilled and laid back. He prefers not to train, he would do anything but train, and almost faces dire consequences because of it. In the first 11 episodes, Yo's journey is to take the training and the burden of being the hope of his family more seriously, as we find out about the Shaman tournament. However, he just doesn't have the attitude for it. He's described as being a slacker, which he clearly is, so external factors are needed to force him to train. At the very beginning of episode 1, when Manta is going through the cemetery, he sees Yo and a bunch of ghosts just stargazing and partying. You would think him knowing about the Shaman tournament, he would only be seen training or meditating to train his mind when he goes into this trance as he fuses with a ghost, but nope, we see him chilling instead, which allows me to segue to Manta, or Morty in the English dub, whichever you prefer, but for the sake of these videos, we will be calling him Manta. Manta is the narrator of the story for the anime. We more or less see the adventures through his eyes. He is presented to be us, the normal human, who just happened to be sucked into the world of the shamans the minute he met Yo Asakura. Manta can be seen as annoying, but his overall story arc from start to finish of this show is the journey of him wanting to stand toe-to-toe with his best friend from a normal boy to a shaman, ready to risk his life for his best friend. And we definitely get that. But how do they even become friends? That's a funny story. The humor in this show cannot be ignored. It's one of the most genuinely funny shows you will ever see. For instance, when Manta wants to talk to Yo when he enters the classroom, and he starts talking to him, saying how they already met, and Manta already made such a big deal about Yo and his ghost to his classmates, but then Yo was like, sorry bro, I don't know you. That still makes me laugh. That's a proper troll moment from Yo right there. Manta ends up following Yo, but to his disappointment, Yo just stands by the bridge and looks at the river for hours. I'm amazed Manta even stayed there for that long. Fast forward through those events, Manta eventually gets ambushed by Ryu of the Wooden Sword and his gang. Ryu and Manta are more alike than we think. Both have the same journey of wanting to be a shaman, but Ryu's journey to being a shaman takes a different turn, as we see in a few episodes. Ryu and his gang are just looking for a place to call their own, their best place. On the surface, you look at Ryu and his friends and you automatically think they're just a bunch of low-life thugs. In the first episode, they were described by the classmates that they're basically that, absolute maniacs, which is why Ryu's dream is more relatable. They're basically a bunch of young lads just trying to have a fun and a place where they can chill and call home. But society has labeled him and his friends a bunch of thugs and made them outcasts, which as a result, they have now turned into hanging out in the cemetery and just places that you wouldn't call a place to hang out for young people. This is relatable to a lot of young men all over the world. They're not looking for trouble, but they're always labeled and are being judged, which is why Ryu's dream has a lot of depth to it. And then he goes and smashes Amidamaru's tombstone and beats the crap out of Manta in the process. What an idiot. I guess maybe he's a maniac after all. Yo sees this and immediately befriends Manta. He feels it's his responsibility to help Manta by tying him up against a tree against his will. This show really is something else. Ryu comes in with his squad and immediately gets his boys to attack Yo, but Yo seems calm and collected until we see Amidamaru's silhouette behind Yo, and for the first time, we see the Hyogatai Spirit Ball mode, knocking both of Ryu's goons out with a blunt piece of wood that is mainly used in cemeteries. Ryu has had enough. He personally goes after Yo, but Yo's speed fused with the Amidamaru's samurai abilities is too much for Ryu. Ryu actually says, "Where did this guy go?" Yo vanished. That's how fast he was going. And mind you, Ryu's wooden sword is a sharp piece of work. It cut a gravestone in half. So comparing Yo's weapon and Ryu's weapon is like comparing a spoon to a knife. But Yo artfully dodges and could have easily killed Ryu. But he does something worse. He cuts Ryu's hair. Ryu would have rather died than have his hair chopped off the way he did. And that's how the first episode ends, with Ryu and his gang defeated. The first episode was really well done. It had the comedic elements to it. It introduced us to 4 main characters, as well as explaining through Manta's eyes how the Hyogatai works. It didn't need to be spoon-fed to us how it worked, and it kept it simple and engaging. Yo is a very likable character because he's just so normal. He's not this extreme goofball or this massive personality. He's just a normal dude who wants to chill with his mates, making him a lot more relatable than most shonen heroes. So overall, this was a strong start to the show and for the first arc. Episode 2, we learn more of the backstory of Amidamaru. Amidamaru had a tough life, but with the help of Mosuke, his best friend, he was able to survive all the way up to working with the daimyo as the head of the samurai, with Mosuke being the master craftsman of swords. Mosuke was so good at what he did, the daimyo wanted him killed and ordered Amidamaru to do the job, but he refused, killing most if not all of the men that came after him that night. Mosuke promised to give Amidamaru a premium sword, the best sword anyone can ever have, the Harusame. However, it was too late. Amidamaru ended up dying, and Mosuke's spirit waited for the next 600 years, full of guilt and shame. The relationship between Amidamaru and Mosuke is a lot like the friendship between Yo and Manta. Yo is the fighter, just like Amidamaru, whilst Mosuke is the helper, just like Manta. However, throughout this episode, Yo is attempting to have Amidamaru be his guardian ghost, but he refuses, as he is waiting for his friend on the hills. This episode highlighted how kind Yo really is, and that behind the carefree spirit, that he has a soul that is there for others. He managed to get the Harusame repaired thanks to the Hyogatai of him and Mosuke, and delivered it to Amidamaru, telling Amidamaru that he understands and that he can finally leave this world in peace and join his friend Mosuke. Yo wanted Amidamaru to be his guardian ghost, but he chose to be selfless and let Amidamaru be free to join his friend, which is the very reason why he came back, as Ryu came in to finish off Yo and Manta. But thanks to Amidamaru, Ryu was defeated once again, but this time Amidamaru is staying permanently as Yo's guardian ghost. The next couple of episodes, we get introduced to the Vegeta of the Shaman King series, the guy that will always be the rival to Yo, Tao Ren. His introduction was menacing, especially when Manta first met him, slicing a lorry in half with ease in the middle of the road. In these 2 episodes, you can feel the anger within Ren. He doesn't go through a journey yet in the first arc. He is still the bitter rival in the first arc. Literally the exact opposite of Yo. Yo is the level-headed and is always calm, whilst Ren is hot-headed and can be wound up quite easily. Ren was trained as a baby with his dad, having an army of assassins more or less training Ren, whilst you had Yo just chilling, basically pissing off his granddad for not taking the training too seriously. You can see the contrast even when they meet for the first time. Ren is intense and ready to go, whilst Yo is laid back and just wants to befriend him. I have to say, you do hate Ren in these episodes because he straight up wants to kill Yo, and he almost did at the end of episode 3, which shows us a glimpse of the enormous pressure that his dad puts on him. His dad was having a go at him for not finishing off Yo, and you can see the fire in Ren boiling over. Ren looks like this fight with Yo is life or death. That is the way he is treating this fight, even though the Shaman tournament hasn't even started yet. Whilst Yo, on the other hand, is using this fight as a way to learn and improve. I have to say, I love Ren's moveset. The Chuka Zanmai is one of my favorite moves out of any character in this show. He does it at such speed with that massive Bicento. It makes it look like he's holding multiple Bicentos, making the attack feel more deadly. Yo teaches Ren in this fight that a guardian spirit should be treated as an equal. One doesn't have power over the other. There has to be a complete trust within them both. Ren and Bason's relationship at the start of the show, comparing towards the end of the show, it's literally night and day. They go from this badass super serious mysterious killing machines, almost Robocop-like, to a comedic duo with actual banter. Episode 3 has the beginning of Ryu's journey to becoming a shaman, where he faintly can see Bason and Amidamaru. In this second arc, we see his journey to becoming a shaman, but we will talk about that in part 2. Yo achieves full 100% Hyogatai and defeats Ren in episode 4, but due to his fatigue, he passes out and returns back to the hospital. There we see the first glimpse of Yo's terror, Anna. It turns out that this is Yo's fiancée, and in my opinion, Yo needs a girl like Anna. Yo is too much of a slacker. If it was up to him, he would wing it all the way through and maybe do some last minute training here and there before a fight. Just like the 2 fights with Ren just before, Anna pushes him to the limit, making him run from dawn till dusk. Both Anna and Yo want an easy life when Yo is the Shaman King. That is why Anna is making Yo struggle with the constant training. It needs to be done. The struggle needs to happen now in order for you to have the easy life afterwards. It's the whole work hard when you're young so you can retire and enjoy the fruits of your labor when you're older. What I love about Anna is that she doesn't ever show her real emotions, not even to Yo throughout the show. Anna sees Yo in tough situations, but she never breaks and cries for him. She says it's for his own good. He needs to be tested because the road to becoming Shaman King is not easy. However, there were a few instances where she does break down. Even she is not that strong. But we'll get to those. But her training works. Ren's sister June sent more of their minions to attack Yo, and Yo easily took them out. He wasn't running out of breath this time, so clearly his fitness and overall power is increasing thanks to the training. Thanks to Anna's introduction, we have also learned that there is more types of shaman. She is a spirit medium. As we see in future episodes, she has the ability to call upon spirits that have already ascended to the spirit world. This was significant because all this time, you would think all shamans are like Yo and Ren, using spirits to fight. But there are different types of shaman, not just the fighter types. We don't only get introduced to one female character, we see Ren's sister June. We see her journey from being this evil, cold-blooded Daoshi to eventually becoming a friendly and warm to others around her, thanks to her fight with Yo. A Daoshi is someone who uses talismans to take control of dead bodies to do their bidding. And the unfortunate individual who got trapped by the Tao family is Li Pai Long, the famous action movie star who mysteriously disappeared 17 years ago and who is of course Manta's hero and idol. Episode 6 and 7 is about the fight between Yo and June, but even though they are the ones participating in the fight, the real fight is within Manta. The conflict and confusion of seeing his hero fighting against his best friend. Yo is getting battered by Li Pai Long. This is just too much to watch. It's not even a contest. Yo doesn't even have a legit weapon to even stand a chance against Li Pai Long. And all hope is lost. And you see Manta run away. And you can hear the evil sister taunting, then saying what a friend they have in Manta. Just running away when things get tough. But what I loved most in these 2 episodes is that Manta wasn't actually running away. The show tricked us into thinking that he did, when in reality, he was looking for a weapon for Yo to use in order to combat Li Pai Long. Yo and the others had no clue, but I think deep down, both Anna and Yo knew that Manta was coming back. When I watched this episode, for the first time as a kid, I thought he actually ran away, but he was going after gang members, begging for their swords and weapons. He was getting beaten up hard, but he still never quit. He was hanging on to one of the gang members' sword for dear life. Thankfully, Ryu came in to save the day with his wooden sword, which eventually did help out in this fight. But what we learn about Manta, look who his hero is. It's Li Pai Long, a strong, badass warrior. In a way, he looks up to Yo because Yo is also a badass shaman warrior. He looks up to these strong characters, and I think deep down, that's what Manta wants to be, a strong warrior. But he wasn't blessed with the physicality for it, making him feel useless within himself. That is the story and inner struggle with Manta that we see throughout the show, his journey to becoming a shaman. But more importantly, the need to be helpful to Yo and the others. He doesn't want to just be a sidekick, he wants to do more. For the first time, we see Anna's abilities as she summons Li Pai Long's old master and combines Yo and him with Hyogatai, which ultimately comes to the demise of Li Pai Long and June. There will be character analysis videos on all of these characters where we'll be going into depth on their struggles, motivations and flaws, so stay tuned for those videos when released. The lesson that Yo taught Ren is the same lesson he taught June, but unlike Ren, June actually takes notice and changes. She doesn't change right away. She's more into that limbo stage where she is unsure about what she has been taught throughout her entire life from her dad. This speaks more about Yo's character. Someone for 17 years has been taught a way of life for so long and ends up questioning all of their beliefs after one major encounter. This is something that a leader or someone of influence can only do. Yo doesn't seem like the leader type, but that is another journey that he goes through into becoming a tough-minded leader. Him right now is not a leader, but he eventually becomes one by the end of the show. He already has someone calling him master in Ryu, as he has now embarked in his journey to becoming a powerful shaman. Anna is mainly using him as a chef and a cleaner, disguising it as training. One of the moments that cracked me up was when Ryu and his boys were observing Yo and marveling the level of meditation that Yo is doing. But it was then later revealed that he was just sleeping, to the major disappointment of Ryu, the boy from the north, Horo Horo, the funniest character out of everyone. He is easily the biggest goofball ever. His introduction is amazing. He's completely passed out. You would think he was dead. But then our genius protagonist, Yo, throws a stake and sends our boy Horo Horo into possibly an actual death. I love Horo Horo. He's just so funny. And his powers as well. He was using Furyoku before Furyoku was even introduced. He puts Kororo into his snowboard and then unleashes devastating icicle assaults, as mentioned in the dub. What cracked me up the most on his introduction is that in the beginning of the episode, we find out his stuff got stolen and he needed the stolen items because he was selling them to make money. He said he would leave Yo's house as soon as he finds his stuff, and he did. And it turned out that the police took all of his things. When he found out about this, he then gave this epic goodbye to Yo and the others, and that he will see Yo in the Shaman tournament. So you'd think we won't see him again for a few dozen episodes, or at least when the tournament starts. We see him in the next scene eating watermelons in Yo's house, as Anna beats the shit out of everyone because of this. Horo Horo's abilities are there for all to see in the first episode. He is damn powerful. There was that scene where he sensed a drop of water and he managed to concentrate and freeze that drop. Because he's such a cheerful, funny character, we don't take him that seriously, even when he told about his dream of saving the mini spirits up north with the lily pads and overall just saving nature from the disaster of pollution. Yo and Manta were just laughing at him. They thought he was crazy. He is the nature boy of this show. It works sometimes, other times it doesn't as much. The show sometimes straight up ignores him, so maybe because of the way the show treats him, he's quite underrated as a character. And even his power level, he pushed a few characters to the limit, so he can take a hit as well. One thing the show does really well is the introduction of all of these characters. You don't feel overwhelmed, it all feels so natural with each character. Some of these characters even bring about new abilities that a shaman can have. Even though there may be some episodes where not much happens, there's always a purpose behind those episodes, such as episode 2 where we learned about Mosuke and Amidamaru's backstory, or the episode where Ryu wants to be a shaman and wants to do training. We learned that Ren's dad has entire armies of dead soldiers ready, which gives us that fear of a colossal enemy. The Tao family are to Yo and his friends. In the episode with Horo Horo, we learned that even the elemental powers can be used by a shaman to combat enemies. Boy, later on, do we find a guy that uses the power to the utmost extreme. Some episodes might feel like filler, but they're actually not. It goes to the point straight away. We learn about the tournament in a few episodes, and that is the sole goal of the show. The Shaman tournament and being the Shaman King. The final 2 episodes of this arc really speeds up the process for Ryu's journey into becoming a shaman, where he actually gives up on the idea of becoming a shaman. It's ironic that the moment he gives up being a shaman is the exact moment Tokagero takes control of his body. Tokagero wants to kill Amidamaru, but Amidamaru is already dead, so the only way to kill him is through Yo. The stakes were high in this, as Manta is taken hostage and Ryu is also wielding the famous Harusame created by Mosuke. Yo, Anna and Amidamaru came to the conclusion it's either defeat Ryu or destroy the Harusame, which is the last memory of Mosuke. But for me, the best part of these 2 episodes is when Yo lets Tokagero be inside of him with the Hyogatai. This was madness by Yo, because all we can see is that Tokagero is a mercenary. He doesn't give a shit. He will kill people. Yo even puts Amidamaru back in his mini tomb. That's how much he was willing to give Tokagero a chance. But he still knew that Tokagero didn't have it in him to kill Yo. And this is one of those rare scenes where you see emotion from Anna. She was actually crying. That's how much of a madness that Yo did in this scene. But he knew. He quietly knew we will see similar scenes, not to this extreme, but scenes where Yo illustrates an awareness that only he has. And again, these are signs of a leader, of a Shaman King. We're not there yet. We're nowhere near there. The first arc is mainly an introduction to the powers of the shaman and our ensemble cast. We see the beginnings of the journey that each of our characters are going through. Yo going from lazy slacker to actually training and developing qualities of a leader. Manta trying to fit in and be useful in the world of shamans. Ryu trying to be a shaman. Ren starts his journey in the second arc, whilst here he is still an antagonist. And Horo is, well, Horo. The pacing is solid. Nothing is too fast. Yo being weak at the start makes sense because he has no training. So him losing to Ren and collapsing in the rematch makes sense instead of him standing high at the end of the rematch. All characters and their dreams are explained well. It's easy to follow and overall a strong start to the show. This is Shady from the Shaman Tribe. Please join us in our part 2 of our review.